Captain America, the first Avenger in the Marvel Universe, is definitely a fan favourite. He holds a special place in every Marvel fan's heart, whether it's because of the way he is or because of the amazing on-screen portrayal by Chris Evans. Either way, he is loved. His backstory definitely tells us how he uses his powers, but how far do his abilities go? Are they only limited to being at peak human physicality, or do they go beyond? In this video, we will discuss and see what his super soldier serum infused body can go through without breaking. And before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Who is Steve Rogers? How did he become Captain America? Stephen Grant Rogers was from an Irish immigrant family. Born in 1922, he grew up during the time of Great Depression. Owing to his Irish Catholic upbringing, he was filled with a sense of duty and responsibility. He lost his father at a very young age and his mother to pneumonia when he was a teen. When he was in school, he was taught how being an American is part of their duty to protect the United States by his civics teacher. This led to Steve wanting to be a soldier, but his physical health never permitted him to join the army. He had a long history of illnesses such as asthma and heart problems, and in his family there was a history of cancer as well. But because of his high patriotic values, Steve really wanted to serve his country. This is why, when he was given the opportunity to sign up for the Super Soldier program, he joined without a single doubt. Over the training period, Steve proved to his commanding officers and trainers that while he may not be the strongest physically, he is strong and an admirable person worthy of being a super soldier. That is why Dr. Abraham Erskine chose him to be the one to wield the powers and responsibilities of being a super soldier. He was given the super soldier serum in two ways, orally and intravenously. Once that was in his system, he was blasted with beta rays, which stabilized the serum in his system. This enhanced and changed his physiology to the extent that when he came out of the beta ray chambers, his body was in peak human condition. This is how our super soldier came into being. He ended up being the only one who was given the super soldier serum, as immediately after he was turned and the experiment was successful, Dr. Erskine was murdered by a Nazi spy, preventing the super soldier serum being put in papers. Why Captain America ages slower than normal humans. The secret to not aging so quickly can be Korean skincare for a lot of people, but for Steve Rogers, it is accelerated cell repair and growth. When he was injected with the super soldier serum, it changed the way his cells worked. Unlike us, where the rate of our older cells dying and being replaced by newer cells slows down with age, making us look older in turn, Steve's cells worked in an accelerated way. His older cells are repaired and newer cells are generated at an astounding rate of speed, which gives him a very youthful appearance. The slowing down of his age is very much because of the super soldier serum. We get a good idea of how this works when we see Steve in Avengers Endgame, where he parted ways with his friends to spend his life with Peggy, but when he finally meets them, he doesn't look like someone who is over 100 years old. Another big reason for his youthful appearance is due to being frozen for 70 years in the Arctic. This also slowed down his aging significantly. If the super soldier serum was taken out of his system in an isolated way, Steve would age rapidly.
No, see this was aged for 1,000 years. The barrel's built from the wreck of Grunhill's fleet.
Why can't he get drunk? We have seen that alcohol is definitely somewhat of a constant in the life of Tony Stark. On the contrary, Captain America never goes anywhere near alcohol. That is because Captain America literally cannot drown his sadness in alcohol thanks to his metabolism. The super soldier serum gave him a lot of good things, such as maxed out strength, speed and agility. It also maxed out his metabolism. His metabolism is so fast that he is unable to get buzzed. In order to be a little drunk, the alcohol has to stay in your system for a while. Thanks to super soldier serum, the alcohol never stood a chance against Steve's quick metabolism. We get a very good example of when we see Captain America go to a bar to drown his sorrows, but calls it quits when he cannot keep up with his metabolism.
Come on, Cap.
Why is Captain America worthy of Mjolnir? Let's all be honest here. We were all equally intrigued when we saw Captain slightly budge the Mjolnir. We have all found ourselves wondering afterward if we will truly get to see Steve wield the Mjolnir, and when we do see him pick it up, it's an amazing moment. But that leads us to the question, why? Why is Captain America worthy of Mjolnir? Well, let's be honest, the signs were always there. From the very first time we meet Steve on screen, we realize he is a good man. We see him jump on top of a grenade to shield his fellow platoon members during training, even though he's not the strongest. Physical strength was something he lacked, but he made up for it by being a strong-willed, righteous person. Because of that reason, he was given the Super Soldier Serum. The maker of the Super Soldier Serum wanted the powers of the serum to be wielded by someone who is of pure heart, and Steve was. Every time we see Steve given a choice between the right thing to do and the easy thing to do, Steve always did the right thing. He knew what was at stake, and he always chose his morality and what was right for the greater good over everything else, even if that made him a fugitive in the eyes of the law or ruined a close friendship, as we saw between Steve and Tony Stark. Steve is willing to go against everyone because he knows that his friend Bucky is worth saving. Steve is willing to submerge the plane with the bomb under ice water, sacrificing his life, knowing full well he will have to let go of things that are important to him, no matter what state he's in. Even while he's running from the government, Steve repeatedly chooses to be the superhero and to be the one to do the right thing. He is unwilling to sacrifice even one life when it comes to fighting Thanos because he did his best to buy time and get the Infinity Stone out of Vision without killing Vision. We see that when Thanos snaps and erases half the world's population, Steve is devastated, but he still remains strong and waits for whatever is to come because he knows it's his responsibility. He does his best to keep everyone together even after going through such a great loss, as the snap was something that affected him as well. He rallies everyone together at the first sign of being able to undo the whole snap and does his best to do everything right. Being a superhero comes with a lot of responsibilities and sacrifices, and Steve never once shies away from either. Steve Rogers is a natural born leader, and while he makes mistakes, he's open to admitting to them and working together with all of his teammates. All of these factors together make Steve worthy of wielding Mjolnir and becoming almost a god instead of just a superhero. Is he immune to vampire infection? The Marvel Universe has vampires in it, specifically Blade. The whole vampire and vampires hunter thing, which was one of the campiest vampire movies that was made in the early 2000s, is actually part of the Marvel Universe, and Steve actually had a run-in with these vampires as well. The Ultimate Universe in the Marvel Comics is definitely out of this world. The characters of Earth 1610 have a whole different type of adventure in comparison to their Earth 616 counterparts. On this Earth, Captain America has to team up with Blade, the vampire hunter, and defeat a bunch of vampires. While he's out doing his thing, Rogers finds a young daredevil, and ignoring all the telltale signs that he may have been turned into a vampire, Rogers approaches him and instantly gets bitten. However, when Blade shows up to kill Rogers, who has been compromised, he finds out that Steve is fighting off the vampire infection. As we know, Steve's body is able to fight off any type of infection because of his heightened immunity thanks to the Super Soldier Serum. Hence, owing to that, Steve successfully manages to curb his vampiric urges and ends up fighting off the infection completely, regaining his human status by the end of the series. Once, his body was converted into Spider King. While Steve's body is capable of fighting against any earthly diseases, in one story arc we see his body give up. In the Spider Island story arc, we follow a world that is ravaged by the Spider Queen. She releases a spider virus into the air, which at first only affected humans, giving people some hope that Captain America and the Avengers might be able to save them. But Manhattan fell, and with it fell the superhumans as well. Despite going to Horizon, the high-tech lab where every brain gathered to find a countermeasure to the virus, the plague mutated. It mutated enough to start affecting superhumans as well. It affected Hulk, it affected Captain Marvel, and it affected Captain America. Once mutated, Steve Rogers caught the eye of the Spider Queen, turning him into her Spider King. Spider-like legs came out his back, and his face had several sets of arachnid eyes. How can his bones survive after falling from heights? The biggest reason why superheroes are, well, super is because they make impossible things look extremely easy. If tomorrow one of us decides to jump out of a jet with no parachute on, that would be quite the experience and quite the way to go out. But when it comes to Captain America, who literally jumps out of a Quinjet without a parachute, nothing happens. He does not stop to take a breather. He doesn't seem to require even a moment to catch himself. No, he just lands on his feet and starts taking people out. We have seen Captain jump out of a building even with nothing but his shield to break his fall, and once he fell to the street below, he stood up and booked it on a motorcycle. So clearly, dying from a fall is not going to be something that will take Captain America out. But why is that? The answer is density. When we grow up, we're often told by our parents to drink a lot of milk because milk helps with bone density. The stronger our bones are, the easier it is for us to go through activities like jumping, running and falling and end up with no damage or just a few scratches. When it comes to Steve, his body changed a lot after the super soldier serum. For him to access all of his peak human abilities like agility and endurance, his body transformed itself to be more muscular. We all know the scene where a shirtless and bulked up Chris Evans falls out looking like a snack. But in order for his body to deal with that muscle and function the way it previously did, his bones thickened as well. So thanks to super soldier serum, Steve's muscles and bones are far more dense than ours, which helps Steve in performing amazing adventure sports such as paragliding without a parachute or a glider, and actually walking away from it without breaking all of his 206 bones. Hypnosis can't work on Captain. One of the tricks that villains often use in comics is mind control. It's as simple as that. You hypnotize a strong hero and make him fight against his friends. But that is not something that will happen to our dear Avengers because Captain America is resistant to hypnosis. Thanks to his super soldier serum, he's able to focus solely on little things. This ability to focus so concretely makes him incredibly resistant to hypnosis. Fans theorize another reason why Steve is resistant to hypnosis is by focusing so much on other things around him. In the comics, we see that when he was first injected with super soldier serum, he was planted with a lot of false memories, so that if he was ever caught, he can't accidentally tell his captors what they want to know. This sounds like a standard enough procedure, except it had some dire consequences. As Steve was frozen in ice for more than 100 years, when he finally woke up, he was no longer sure which memory was real and which was not. Understandably, this was a very disorienting thing for him to go through, and because of that reason, fans assume that Steve focuses so much on whatever is around him, and he is able to hyperfocus very easily. This particular side effect of the super soldier serum often goes overlooked, but it would be a very good aspect to explore when it comes to Steve Rogers. How fast is Captain America? On your left is honestly one of the scenes that gives you a very good view into the Captain's friendship with Falcon. What it also gives you is the idea of how fast Steve can run. We have seen his speed on screen several times, especially in First Avenger and Winter Soldier, when we see Steve go toe-to-toe with cars that are definitely driving at a very high speed. This has led to fans theorizing about how fast our beloved Captain America really is. He's definitely not as fast as Quicksilver, but he definitely has a speed that is beyond normal humans. That's because of the super soldier serum, naturally. After years of theorizing and wondering, fans finally have an answer to how fast Captain America is. In the 65th anniversary special of Captain America, we get to see Steve actually spell it out for us in the most humble way possible. He can run a mile in just over a minute when he has to. This explains Steve's achievement of doing a 40-yard dash in about 3.82 seconds, allowing us to rest easy knowing that Captain America will definitely give the villains a run that they will never forget. Does he have healing ability? Healing ability is a pretty nifty trick to have up your sleeve. In Marvel, this ability has been explored in detail with characters such as Wolverine from the X-Men series and Deadpool. But they are not the only characters in the universe with this trick at their disposal. Steve Rogers also has a pretty decent healing ability. Owing to his super soldier serum, he not only reached peak human attributes, but so too did his immune system. No earthly disease, whether it's from a bacteria bacteria, virus, or anything else can stop our captain because he is simply immune to them. Not only that, any type of wound is unable to slow him down. Partly because of his stubbornness and mostly backed by his healing ability, Steve is able to spring back into action after taking quite a bit of damage. We have seen him mend himself in a matter of hours when it comes to stab wounds and bullets. He even comes back from getting his neck snapped like a twig within a week. So, while his healing ability may not be as cool as that of Wolverine's, it does a good job and keeps our favourite super soldier up and running. Can he survive after getting a bullet to his head? Let's be honest, in comics, nobody stays dead except Uncle Ben. But people do come very close to it, and we got experience of that firsthand in the Captain America and Falcon series, where somebody shot Captain America point blank in the head. You see, being shot in the head is a difficult injury to come back from. If you're Wolverine, then sure, the bullet won't penetrate deep enough and will get pushed out thanks to his adamantium skull and the healing ability, but Captain doesn't have that. On top of that, in the death of Captain Ark, we saw Steve die from an abdomen shot, so obviously fans were quite sure that Steve was not coming back for at least a couple of issues. But as it turns out, Steve doesn't need a few issues to recover from a bullet to the head. While his healing factor isn't amazing and astounding like Wolverine or Deadpool, his healing factor can prevent him from dying from a headshot. His body healed itself in 12 minutes. Just 12 minutes is all Captain America needed to be up and running and go back to being Captain America. So yes, he can survive a bullet to the head, but maybe not an abdomen shot. How strong is Captain America's child? Marvel is very popular for their multiverses. The multiverses are used to go through what-if scenarios that we can't have in the canon universe because of how things played out. One such multiverse timeline in the comics shows us James Rogers. He's the son of Steve and Natasha. Yes, Natasha as in Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow. We never get to see a chemistry between Black Widow and Steve Rogers on screen, except a couple of scenes in Captain America Winter Soldier. Owing to Natasha's sterilization at a very young age, we can assume that perhaps James was born out of genetic experimentation instead of normal conception. However, despite how James is born, he does inherit powers from both his parents. He shows signs of the super soldier serum being present in his system. He is at peak human health. He essentially maxed out every bar that there was. He has agility, strength, speed, reflexes, and a lot more that are way too enhanced for a boy his age. In the Earth 555326 timeline, James was brought up by Tony Stark, who made sure that James went through combat training. This, along with his inherent super soldier serum derived conditions, make him quite the strong character in the next Avengers series. Also, Tony gives him an energy shield, as James never got the original Star Shield, but this energy shield serves the purpose very well by being almost invincible against any physical or energy focused attack. James uses this shield when he faces off against Ultron and later gets back the original Star Shield after fighting against Ultron-controlled Iron Captain America. So, in a very like father, like son fashion, James is a strong and resilient character. Is Captain America immortal? So when Avengers Endgame premiered, one of the biggest shocks came in the form of Steve Rogers' decision to stay back in time with Peggy Carter. We do get to see him meet up with the rest of the Avengers, even though this time he is definitely older. Not as old as someone should be, when they are of his age, mind you, but this gave rise to the fans wondering if Captain America is immortal or not. Now, if we look at Steve's history, we know that he was injected with the super soldier serum. This serum made drastic changes to his physiology, including making him age a lot slower than any normal human. So with the help of the super soldier serum, we can definitely understand that Steve would have had a considerably long life as compared to other humans. But that is not the only thing that could be the cause of his seemingly immortal status quo. We saw that Steve was worthy of Mjolnir. As Odin has aptly explained, anyone who holds the hammer, if they are worthy, will possess the power of Thor. Now in the comics, we have seen seen that owing to Mjolnir, Thor is seemingly immortal. His rate of aging is quite slow, even though Odin has mentioned that Asgardians live and die like mortals. With Loki's sarcastic remark, we can see that Asgardians can easily stay alive for 5,000 years. Now, when Steve wielded Mjolnir, we can conclude that Mjolnir, just like the super soldier serum, ended up leaving a lasting impression on Steve's physiology. At one point, there was lightning coursing through Steve's veins, so we can add that at that point, Steve gained metabolism and powers similar to that of Thor, which in turn added to whatever physiological effects that super soldier serum had on him. So it will not be something too out of the box to think that Mjolnir and super soldier serum together have granted Captain America immortality. Not immortality in the sense that he will never die, because again, Asgardians die, and they are literally gods. So he is immortal in the sense that he will live a long, long life as they do. Marvelous verdict. Whether you supported him or not in Civil War, you have to admit that Captain America is the Boy Scout of the group. He does keep the morals and spirits high in Avengers, and the whole team would seem rather empty without Captain America. We all shed a bit of tears when we saw Captain America retiring, because the first Avenger definitely touched our hearts.
No, give me that. You have the little one.